They would make fine servants. With 50 men, we could subjugate them all and make them do whatever we want. Christopher Columbus, Captain's Log. Good morning, everybody. This is your favorite aspiring revolutionary here, a wandering author, reminding you that we are all the authors of our own lives. As always, my message remains the same. Spend less, live more, earn your freedom with frugality. And today, we're going to start discussing one of my most ambitious projects yet, which is American history, going all the way back to Christopher Columbus's discovery of the Americas. Now, there's a few things that are pretty interesting that I found while I was doing the research for this video. One of them is just how different Native American culture was compared to Europeans. Christopher Columbus's log has this quote where he just says they willingly traded everything they owned, and that was like a very prominent thing. And the reason that is the Arawak, the people in Haiti that he discovered, were remarkable because of their conspicuous hospitality. Europe was a culture that was based off private property and private ownership, and being hospitable like that, particularly to strangers, was not something that they could process. It was notable to them. During Columbus's voyage, just to give you an idea of the kind of man that our nation's founder, was, the Spanish royal crown promised a pension of 10,000 maravedis each year to whoever the first person was that sighted land. Columbus's shipmate Rodrigo was supposed to win it. He had saw the land early the night before. However, Columbus was the one who won the award. Now, early American history, if I really went into detail on all of it, it's just a whole bunch of it's genocide, basically. But the stuff that stood out to me the most, again, is how frequently Columbus and Bartolomeu de Casas, who was an early Spanish Jesuit priest that lived among the Indians, would quote things like this: the Indians are so naive and so free with their possessions that no one who has not witnessed them would believe it. When you ask for something, they never say no. So just the generosity and the willingness to give stuff away was strange. Now, within 2 years of their discovery, half of the 250,000 Native Americans that were on Haiti would be dead due to a combination of suicide, straight up murder, and disease. Now, Bartolomeu de Casas wrote a history of the Indies, and he's an interesting historical figure because he had been a plantation owner, but towards the end of his life, in his 50s, he renounced it, and he would end up becoming a vocal critic of Spanish authority and cruelty. Now, he also wrote down several detailed descriptions about how the Native American people lived, which I also actually find is like the most interesting aspect, because it really shows us that the kind of cultures we live in today are not universal, and it may be the most dominant form now, but listen to how the Native American people would live. They lived in large communal, bell-shaped buildings, housing up to 600 people at one time. They lack all manner of commerce, neither buying nor selling. So these an entire culture of humans lived without even the concepts that we base our entire society on today. Now, whether or not that's good or bad, if we look at it from a purely historical perspective, we know which one won, right? Native Americans aren't around anymore. But all of this death that occurs early in American history was in pursuit of gold. And what I think is most interesting about that is the average Spanish farmer didn't benefit from it at all. For like 100 years, Spain and Portugal would become dominant world powers, but even that was relatively short-lived. So an entire hemisphere of humans were genocided in search of gold by people who basically didn't benefit from this search. Just kind of, greed is a weird thing, right? So now we can fast forward about 150 years from here. Columbus discovered America in 1492. and within, a little while, most Native Americans were dead. What's interesting is in 1676, even like the colonists, like the white people that came over, most of them were poor too. And if you paid attention in high school, you may have heard of Bacon's Rebellion, but it really wasn't talked about too much. At least it wasn't in the classes that I took. But this was a rebellion of white frontiersmen, and it rocked the colony of Virginia early in its history. It occurred in 1676, about 100 years before the actual American Revolution. And it was severe enough for England to send 1,000 troops directly to the colony, when the colony only had 40,000 people. Now, at the time, Virginia's governor was Governor Beckley, and he wrote that how miserable that man is that governs a people where 6 parts of 7 at least are poor, indebted, discontented, and armed. So Governor Beckley's own words tell us that the vast majority of the Virginia colony was just poor people, even the colonists that England sent over, right? Now, Bacon would lead these Virginians against the Indians initially. They were the poorest of the white frontiersmen were pushed out to the west where the Native Americans were, and the colony's government was not giving them support. And in addition, he lists several grievances, which is unjust taxes. So Bacon felt that the Jamestown elite were taxing them and like the white farmers unfairly. Also, he felt that the governorship was putting favored people into positions of power, and that's just a common thing throughout history and in all cultures. The people who are in power are going to give more power to their friends, right? There's something startlingly human about that. Also, he complained that the colony was monopolizing the beaver trade, which was a lucrative industry that anybody could participate in. And then, finally, not protecting the farmers against Indians. Now, what we have emerging here is a complex web of exploitative relationships. The Indians were being plundered by the white frontiersmen, so they were dying in droves. The really rich people over in Jamestown were overtaxing the poor farmers that were attacking the Indians, and then the whole colony was being exploited by the crown back over in England, right? Interesting. Now, Virginia's colonial governor, Beckley, would elucidate some interesting principles, and he believed that Bacon's rebellion had the overwhelming support of the people. So the powerful back then were aware that they were, lording over the lower classes, right? And Richard Lee, who is also a member of the Governor's Council, noted that the rebellion began over Indian policy, but, and I quote, "The zealous inclination of the multitude to support Bacon was due to hopes of leveling." Now, for those of you who are unaware, leveling, that dates all the way back to like the English Civil War when the levelers rose up, which we'll do a video on them too. But basically, these were poor people that rose up against the wealthy in English society. And really, there's a ton of this that occurs throughout history, like we saw in Rome with Tiberius Gracchus and the entire Roman Revolution that we've done an entire discourse on. We've got an entire video series, probably of like 20 videos about the destruction of Roman Republic and how inequality kind of was the main issue. And then the main takeaways we have for today's topic is just that from our earliest history, we live in a very unequal society that was based on inequality from its inception. And this pattern isn't new. The most remarkable thing about it is how prevalent it is in all human societies and cultures. From the levelers in England, to the French Revolution, to the American Revolution, which we're not quite there yet, to the Gilded Age, Bronze Age collapse, Roman collapse. I want to start talking about ancient Athens and Sparta, but again, similar story there. There's a reason why Aristotle quotes in his book Politics, and he talks about how the elite need to take care of their population. And that really wraps up what we got today. Talking about early American history is a big topic, so I could go on for hours and hours. And, I probably will have a few hours of content by the time I'm done with this one. But right now, just to clarify, we've got 3 main topics that we're covering. One, we've got American history, and I started that one with just talking about our Constitution, and we'll get back to that again, but I decided to do like an entire overarching view, like a look at all of American history, about 500 years. Then we have ancient history. We've done a lot on the Roman Republic, and coming up, I want to start talking about the Roman Empire. Eventually, I want to move into ancient Greece, like Athens and Sparta. And then we've got our third main topic, which is mainly Stoicism, but it's really just philosophy, meaning, purpose, mindfulness. So basically, we've got 2 veins of thought that we're looking at here. We're looking at like the evolution of Western thought in terms of how we perceive our relationship with the world. That's the Stoicism. And then we have a look at Western society and civilization from an economic and political perspective, which is the history aspect of things. These right here are large topics, and I've chosen them because I need something where I can come up with fresh content that's interesting, insightful, and inspiring. Maybe not too inspiring, but at least interesting and insightful every single day for the foreseeable future. If you check out my Instagram right now, I've got some, here, I might be able to show you guys actually. So, here, we've got this right here. We're kind of planning, our trip, and I probably won't be able to do all of this before I leave, but eventually I want to put marks on here for all the places that I've visited this summer. I do want to do some traveling this winter, but I'm gonna have to slow down a little bit. It's very difficult to maintain this content production schedule and do all the traveling. I'm way behind on all my blog posts, but I do have a list of all the places that I've been to already that I would like to travel in, or that I would like to write blog posts about, and I will get those done. Even it may take me until like this winter or fall to finish them all up, but I will get them all done. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have for you guys. We are going to start talking about some ancient history again tomorrow before we move into mindfulness and Stoic philosophy again. Got a birthday party to go visit this weekend for my little cousin, and then sometime early next week we'll begin our last phase of my summer travel plans, which will bring us all the way up to Maine, where we can see Acadia National Forest. Along the way, we'll see the Great Smoky Mountains National Park, Shenandoah National Park, and several other beautiful scenic spots that are sure to be inspiring. So, I'm going to wrap it up here. It's your favorite aspiring revolutionary and wandering author, reminding you that we are all the authors of our own lives. As always, my message remains the same: spend less, live more, earn your freedom with frugality. What are you guys doing in order to inspire, uplift, and empower your community today? Because this world isn't changing unless we all do our part. You can count on me to do mine daily. Until next time, I love y'all.